They always called me dramatic. Even before the diagnosis, before my hair started thinning and the nausea came in rolling, suffocating waves, I was the one who overreacted, who took things too personally, the one who always read too, much into silence, into the way they forgot to tell me dinner plans changed, or that we were taking family photos without me again. But when I saw the envelope, thick, cream-colored, barely sealed, I didn't overreact. I just stared. The front was addressed to her, in Mom's soft, slanted cursive. The return address wasn't theirs. It was from the travel agency in Florida. I remember it vividly, because my name used to be in that spot. Back when we thought I was going to beat it the first time. Back when the church held fundraisers and the women made lemon bars and deviled eggs and cried into paper plates. Back when the GoFundMe had my face on it, bald, pale, smiling anyway, and now it was hers. She was glowing when she walked in, still in her bridal shower dress, cream lace and someone else's money. She kissed Mom on the cheek, tossed her keys on the counter, and didn't even look at me. No, how are you feeling? No, how's your blood work? Just, did it come yet? And Mom, smiling too widely, handed her the envelope I hadn't meant to open, the one I had peeled slightly, just enough to see the confirmation inside. 4 nights in Maldives, private villa, all-inclusive, booked under the cancer fund account. I hadn't cried right away. That came later. Quietly, alone, under my childhood quilt that still smelled like lavender and betrayal. They said she needed a break, that it had been so hard on the whole family, that planning a wedding while her sister sucked up all the energy in the room was exhausting. They said I should be happy for her. They said it like it was a test, like I'd failed the moment I didn't smile. I think the worst part wasn't the money. It was how easily they did it. Like I was already gone. Like my existence was a burden they were too polite to say out loud. Like grief in advance. That night, I listened through the walls. She was giggling. He was drunk. They talked about which bikini she should pack, which filter to use, which caption would make her look more inspiring. And me? I sat in the guest room they shoved me into, the one that used to be the pantry, now with a cot and a prayer candle. I listened to their life bloom louder, while mine shrank smaller than a whisper. I didn't say anything. Not that night. Not even when she came to show me her honeymoon nails. She had the audacity to ask me to pick the color. I picked pale blue. Like hospital walls. Like silence. Like the bruise that never left after my last IV. She smiled and said, "So calming." And I smiled back, so softly, it should have scared her. It's strange what you start to notice when you stop being seen. The dent in the wall beside the cot, where someone had once leaned a broom. The air vent above my head that whispered colder than the rest of the house. The single outlet, already taken by the lamp that flickered like it didn't want to live either. They said I could make it homey. Mom brought in a lavender sachet, tied with ribbon. Dad dropped off an old TV that only played DVDs. And Lila, my sister the bride, handed me a silk eye mask and said, "So you can sleep through the noise." The noise. Of their laughter, of their plans, of their life growing louder again, now that I was in remission and stable enough to rest. They never called it recovery. They called it maintenance. Like I was a car they hoped would last until the wedding. Sometimes, late at night, I'd stare at the ceiling and wonder if I ever actually belonged here, in this house, In this family, in their version of the story, Lila always fit better in their frame. She smiled easier, laughed prettier, took up space like she was born to it. She didn't flinch when people said things like, "God gives the hardest battles to his strongest soldiers." She wasn't the one who had to throw up between chemo sessions and then apologize for the noise. A week before they left for the honeymoon, I found a box at the back of the hall closet. One of the ones they hadn't meant to keep, labeled, in Sharpie, "Charity, garage sale?" It was filled with cards, dozens of them, from strangers, neighbors, children from the church, some with money still inside, some with folded prayers. There was one from Mrs. Kinney, my high school English teacher, who once stayed after class with me when my nose started bleeding for no reason. She wrote, "You always were the light in the room. Get well soon. I believe in you." And there was a $50 bill tucked inside. Still there. Still untouched. I stared at the card for a long time. I remembered how I'd written her a thank you email last year, and how she replied, confused, saying she hadn't received anything from the fundraiser. That was the first time I let my hands shake, not out of illness, out of something colder, familiar, named betrayal. The next morning, I asked Lila if she wanted help packing. She looked surprised, touched even. "Oh, sure. That's sweet of you." I folded her swimsuits. I ironed the white dress. I zipped her monogrammed luggage shut. Then I tucked the card from Mrs. Kinney deep in the mesh pocket of her carry-on, just so she'd see one face she didn't earn. At dinner, Mom prayed out loud for their safety abroad. Dad toasted with his wine, beaming. I picked at my rice, listened to them list excursions like achievements, watched Lila smile like she hadn't eaten me alive in pieces. They never asked me to say grace. They never looked at me long enough to see what I wasn't saying. That night, I unplugged the lamp, turned the room to darkness, let it swallow the breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding since diagnosis. No one came to say goodbye before their flight. No one left a note. Just a text from Lila, sent hours after takeoff. "We landed. The water is unreal. Sending you some sunshine." I deleted it. Then I deleted every photo of us from my phone. Even the childhood ones. Even the ones where we still looked like sisters. Especially those. I found it the night after they left. I wasn't looking for anything, just trying to kill time in a house that no longer echoed my name. The kitchen clock ticked like a wound that wouldn't close. I moved slowly, tracing the outlines of the cabinets like they were memories. I ended up in the hallway. The framed photos were still there, the family wall, all gold-trimmed and soft-lit. Lila's graduation portrait, their anniversary cruise, the Christmas where I had the flu and stayed in bed. There was one frame crooked, tucked near the corner where the hallway met the laundry door. I adjusted it absently. That's when I saw it. A candid, me and Lila, years ago. We were in matching pajamas. Christmas Eve. I must have been 13. She was 11. I remember the photo. Dad had said, "Smile like you love each other." But what caught me wasn't the photo. It was what was tucked behind it. A folded letter. Still sealed. Faded, but with my name, in Nana's handwriting. Nana died the year before my first hospital stay. They said she left everything to Mom, that there wasn't much anyway, but I recognized the wax seal. Nana always used rose-shaped ones. She said it made goodbye feel less final. I peeled it open, hands trembling. Inside, her writing slanted and soft. For my brave girl, I know you always tried to stay quiet. You didn't ask for much. And that's why I see you most clearly. I left you something. It isn't large, but it's meant for you. I gave it to your mother, with instructions. I hope she listens. I love you. I always knew you were the strongest, Nana. I didn't cry. Not even then. I just folded it back, pressed the paper to my chest for a moment. Then I slid it under my pillow like a prayer no one had earned the right to hear. The next day, I asked Mom about it. I didn't show the letter. Just asked, soft, like a child trying not to break the air. Did Nana leave me anything? She was chopping onions. Didn't look up. Oh, honey, she said. I thought we went over this. She wanted it to be simple. One transfer. No confusion. Did she say that? I asked. She blinked, then smiled too quickly. Well, not in writing. But she told me. You know how she was. Forgetful. Sentimental. I just nodded. I didn't tell her I had the letter. I didn't need to. I saw the guilt in the way she wiped her hands too hard on the towel. That evening, I found the fundraiser ledger in the bottom drawer of Dad's office desk. The drawer they thought I didn't know. The key to every name, every dollar. The math didn't lie. 31,403 in 89.92 raised. 18,603.70 spent on treatment. 12,386.22 missing. There, at the bottom, in different handwriting, Lila's, in pink ink, doodled hearts. Transfer remaining to joint account, trip plus ring installment. So it wasn't just the honeymoon. It was the ring, too. The one she flashed like a trophy on every social feed. The one she captioned, "Forever Love" under. The one I knew she hadn't paid for. I don't remember getting angry. I remember feeling still. Utterly, hollowly still. Like the part of me that had held on. To fairness, to hope, to family. Had finally exhaled for good. That night, I started packing. Not loudly. Not with drama. Just folding clothes I hadn't worn in months. Tucking the letter in the bottom of key. My duffel, checking my hospital bills, my savings, my breath. They thought I was asleep when they called from the resort. I wasn't. Mom had them on speaker while she loaded the dishwasher. Lila's voice floated through the kitchen like a song I used to hum but forgot the words to. Tell her I said thanks again for everything. Seriously. This place is a dream. Mom laughed. She's doing fine. So much better now. Honestly, I think she needed a little perspective. I didn't say a word. Just pressed the power button on my phone. Silence. Small, quiet boundaries are my first, and not the last. The week without them was the quietest the house had ever been. No perfume trailing through hallways. No shoes tossed at the door. No hollow laughter meant to fill the silence they refused to name. Just the ticking clock. And me. I didn't miss them. I missed who I thought they were. I missed the illusion more than the people. I missed believing I was part of something that loved me back. 3 days in, I opened her vanity drawer. Not out of spite. Curiosity, maybe. Some small ache to understand who I had been replaced by. One decision at a time. It was still filled with glittered palettes, half-used lipsticks, scented lotions with names like Blush Romance and Wedding Kiss. Then, underneath a dried rose and a bachelorette tiara, A receipt, not folded, not hidden, just carelessly left. Diamond & Coar's bridal collection, $5,200, paid in full. At the bottom, scribbled in a rushed, looping hand, "Thanks for the miracle. Tell her we said hi." I don't know who "we" was. Maybe one of her bridesmaids. Maybe her fiancé. Maybe both. I stared at the numbers until they blurred, until I couldn't tell where her greed ended and their praise began. That night, I sat down and started writing emails, not out of rage, not even revenge, just truth. To the donors, to the church, to Mrs. Kinney, to the man who sent a check and wrote in the memo. For her strength, may she never lose it. I didn't name names. I didn't point fingers. I just said, "Thank you, I'm still here, I'm still trying," and attached a photo from my last treatment, gaunt, bald, smiling without teeth, because that's who they gave to. Not to a honeymoon, not to a diamond, to a girl who smiled anyway. I got 36 replies in the first 2 days. Some confused, some kind, some furious on my behalf. One woman wrote, "I'm sorry, I didn't know. Please tell me how to help you directly." Another wrote, "You don't deserve this. They should be ashamed." I didn't reply to those. I just saved them, printed each one, folded them into the same shoebox as Nana's letter. Proof that I wasn't imagining the hurt, that someone else saw me. On the 5th day, Mom called. I let it ring. She left a voicemail. "Hey, sweetie, just checking in. Lila says you've been quiet. Everything okay? We're bringing back souvenirs. Souvenirs. For a trip funded by my body breaking." I pressed delete before she finished the sentence. That night, I turned off the hallway light. I unplugged the night lamp. I lit the candle Nana gave me. The one with her handwriting scratched faintly in. Sharpie on the lid. "For when you feel invisible." It flickered low, soft, but stubborn. Like me. The next morning, I made a list, just a small one, of every bill I had paid since moving back, every grocery run, every ride to the hospital I scheduled myself, every apology I made that wasn't mine to say. At the bottom I wrote, "And the cost of silence, incalculable." I folded that too, tucked it in the pocket of my coat. Because someday, maybe soon, someone would try to say, I never did anything for this family, and I wanted to be ready. They came back on a Tuesday, the kind of Tuesday that pretends to be normal. Blue sky, birdsong, a soft breeze that feels like it's trying too hard. I heard them before I saw them. Lila's laugh, high and glittery, suitcases thudding onto hardwood, Mom's voice calling, "We're home," like it was something I was meant to celebrate. I stayed in the guest room, didn't greet them, didn't open the door when Mom knocked twice and said, "Sweetheart?" She left a plastic bag outside with a keychain that read, Maldives 25, and a tiny plastic dolphin attached. It squeaked when I touched it. I tossed it into the waste bin without a sound. They didn't ask how I'd been. Didn't notice the framed photos missing from the hallway. Didn't ask why my phone had been off. But I noticed. I noticed that Lila's ring sparkled brighter. A new stone, maybe. I noticed she had a tan she didn't earn. I noticed she didn't look at me. Not once. At dinner, they recapped the trip like I was a guest in their living room. not someone whose suffering paved the runway for their luxury. Dad made a joke about getting their money's worth. I swallowed my food so slowly I could feel every grain of rice. Mom asked if I liked the candle she'd brought from the resort spa. "Lavender," she said. "I know how it calms you." I said nothing, just nodded. That night, while they laughed over a slideshow of honeymoon photos, I went into the garage. The file cabinet was still there, still dusty, still untouched, except for one folder labeled Property, Emergency Access. Inside was a spare house key, 2, actually, labeled Master Entry and Safe Room. I held them in my hand for a long time. They hadn't changed the locks, not once, not since the fundraiser, not since Nana passed. They forgot I was still part of the foundation. I slipped the keys into my coat pocket. Back in the guest room, I opened the box again, the one with Nana's letter, the receipts, the printed replies. Then I added 2 more things. A photo of me during chemo, taken with my phone in the hospital mirror, gaunt but defiant, and a copy of the bank transfer Lila, made in her own handwriting, using the fundraiser account. I labeled it simply, Truth, if they ever try to rewrite me. On Sunday, I overheard them talking about converting the guest room. "We could turn it into a craft room," Mom said. "She barely needs the space anymore." "She's probably leaving soon anyway," Lila added. "She's, what's that word? Upgraded?" They laughed. They always laughed. Monday morning before sunrise, I left. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. Just unplugged the flickering lamp and left it by the door. The one they gave me after chemo. The one they forgot to fix. Took Nana's letter. The shoebox. The keys. And my silence. Because silence is only ever weakness to people who don't know how much it costs to carry it. The first night in the new place felt like silence. Finally exhaled. It wasn't much. A sublet apartment above a closed-down bakery. The stairs creaked, the heater wheezed, and everything smelled faintly like sugar and ash. But it was mine. No one knocking, no one needing, no one forgetting me while calling it love. I unrolled the thrifted rug, lit Nana's candle again, and sat on the floor with the shoebox, now the only real luggage I carried. I didn't block them. I didn't need to. Let them text. Let them wonder. Let them spin their version of absence into another story where I was too sensitive, too distant, too cold. I wasn't running. I was rebuilding, with their foundation pulled out from under them. On Wednesday, I logged into the donation platform. The fundraiser was still live. Still had my photo. Still had a bio that read, "Fighting with Grace. A family's hope. Every cent helps bring her healing closer." It hadn't been updated since the week after my second round of chemo. But people were still donating. Small amounts. 10 here, 25 there. A woman from Iowa had written just last week, "Praying for your continued strength. You're not alone." They were still feeding the lie. Still giving to a hope that had been pocketed and turned into sunset cocktails. I didn't shut it down. I didn't rage online. I didn't post receipts or start a war. I simply changed the password. Then I updated the bio. "Thank you for your kindness. I'm no longer under family care. If you still wish to support me directly, my verified info is here." And I attached the reply from Mrs. Kinney, the one that read, "We see you now." By Friday, the page had over 30 new messages, half apologizing, half demanding refunds. I didn't reply to any of them. Just read them slowly, like letters addressed to the girl they tried to erase. Lila texted that night. Just one line. "Did you mess with the fundraiser? People are freaking out." I stared at it for a while, then replied, "No, I just took back what was mine." She left, me on red. 2 hours later, a missed call from Mom. A voicemail. We're confused. There's a lot of talk online. Can we please talk? You're being irrational. You know none of this was meant to hurt you. Please call us. I played it twice, then saved it under a new folder called Gaslight Archive. The next day, the power bill for the house was accidentally emailed to me, still listed under my name. Still drafted from the account I used to manage when they forgot the logins. I canceled the autopay, removed my name, changed the email address. A small click, a quiet erasure. They'd find out when the lights flickered, not because I wanted revenge, but because I no longer owed them light. I walked down to the bakery entrance that night, pressed my forehead to the cold glass, watched the ghost of my reflection flicker in the city light. I didn't look strong. I didn't look new. But I looked like someone who had finally stopped begging to be seen. It came in a plain envelope. No return address. No stamps. Just slid under my door like a secret that didn't want to be tracked. At first, I thought it was from them. Some final apology. Or maybe another manipulation dressed in concern. They were good at that. Telling me they loved me in the same breath they forgot I was in the room. But the handwriting was unfamiliar. Neat. Small. The kind of careful someone uses when they want their words to be heard before they're judged. Inside was a folded letter. "Dear Ava, I hope this reaches the right person. I wasn't sure whether to write at all. But I saw the changes on the fundraiser page, and something didn't sit right. I'm Lila's college roommate. We were close for a while. She used to talk about you sometimes, but always in a way that felt dismissive. She once told me, 'My sister's sick, but she always makes it about her.' That stuck with me, especially when I donated $100 to your recovery. I believed it was going to help keep you alive, not to pay for matching robes and a spa upgrade. I saw the photo you posted. I saw you, and I just wanted to say, I believe you. If no one else has told you that, I will. What they did was cruel, not careless. And you don't have to justify your pain to people who think silence equals forgiveness. Keep going." Mare and I held the paper to my chest and let my shoulders fall. I hadn't realized I was still holding them so tight, like my bones were bracing for the next betrayal. But this was something else. Not a rescue. Not redemption, just recognition. And it was enough. That night, I pulled the shoebox down from the shelf again, tucked Maren's letter inside. Then, for the first time, I wrote back. Not to her, to myself. Just a page. Just a start. "Dear Ava, you were right to leave. You were right to stay quiet until it mattered. You were right to feel all of it. You never made it about you. They just made sure it was never about you either. But it is now. Me." The next morning, I got a text. Not from Mom, not from Lila, from Mrs. Kinney. Saw the post, sent a letter to the board. They're opening an inquiry into the fundraiser use. If you ever need a place to stay, my guest room's yours. I read it 3 times. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I could. For the first time in years, I let that belief settle, not in them, not in apologies. In me. I opened the window. Let the cold morning air sting my skin. Let it feel like something close to beginning again. I never replied to Mom's last message. She sent it a week after the inquiry was announced, when the church pulled the fundraiser off their bulletin board and people started whispering in pews. "Ava, this is getting out of hand. You're tearing this family apart. Please, let's just fix this quietly." Quietly. That word again. As if silence had ever protected me. As if it hadn't been the very thing they counted on. My quiet, my politeness, my fear of being too much. I didn't respond, but I did change my number. I didn't send an explanation. I just let the line go dark. Let their access dissolve like breath on a mirror. I owed them no clarity. No more oxygen. The next month I moved again. Not far, just enough. A new apartment higher up, with a small balcony that overlooked a crooked row of trees. I painted one wall soft blue, hung fairy lights along the window frame, set Nana's candle on the sill. I got a part-time job at the corner bookstore. I liked the hush of it. The smell of dust and old paper and stories that didn't require forgiveness to be believed. One afternoon, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a hardcover copy of Jane Eyre. A note. For the girl they tried to lock in a room and call dramatic. No name. Just a scribbled heart. I smiled. I didn't need to know who sent it, because I was no longer trying to be known by the people who forgot me. That night, I walked to the mailbox and found a small white envelope. This time, from the bank. Inside was a statement. The fundraiser account had been frozen. The remainder, $3,122.77, had been redirected, legally, into a new account under my name. There was a note attached. Verified beneficiary, Ava Monroe. Just that. Just a line that told me I existed, on paper. In truth, I withdrew all of it the next morning, in cash. Not out of drama, out of decision. I didn't spend it. I placed it in a plain white envelope, wrote on the front, "For the next Ava, when no one else sees her," and left it in a battered donation box outside the oncology wing where I once sat for hours, counting ceiling tiles and wondering if anyone would cry for me. I never told anyone. No post, no caption, no announcement, just silence. But this time, the kind I owned. I lit Nana's candle again that night, watched the flame sway like it was dancing to a song only I could hear, and I realized something simple, something soft. They had stolen my money, but I had taken back my name, and that would last longer. The next morning, I made tea, opened the window, watched the light stretch across the floor like a promise. I didn't miss them. I didn't hate them. But I would never return. Not because I was angry, because I was finally free.